Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Mordian Glory video. In today's episode we are going to be doing another quick tip Tactica, and this time we're going to be exploring the concept of Sentinel spam. Is this a bit of a sleeper, and how can you take advantage of it in your army? And you know what, I am very excited for this video because I love Sentinels. They're one of my favourite vehicles in the Guard. So let's not mess around. No extended 2-minute intro for the video. Let's just lift up the rock, have a look underneath, and dive right into today's episode. The first thing to acknowledge is that Sentinel spam is not a new idea. They have always been a relatively cheap vehicle inside the Guard motor pool, and they could be fielded in surprisingly large numbers due to the fact that you can take 1 to 3 of them in a squad. However, the concept has struggled to get off the ground historically for a number of reasons. Firstly, Sentinels were fragile. You go back to even when they had armor values and they could be taken out by a good volley of bolter fire. Move on to 8th and 9th edition and still they were susceptible to small arms with 4+ saves and toughness that still made it possible for most anti-infantry weapons to wound them on 4s and 5s. On top of this, they have struggled to take objectives, with rules like objectives secured completely cancelling out any ability for Sentinels to play the primary game. And the last nail in the coffin, they struggled with their damage output. Most Guard units need orders to really start laying on the hurt, and Sentinels, being vehicles, could only get them from things like tank commanders, and they had much higher priority targets to put out those precious orders onto than a few lowly Sentinels. But all of that has changed with 10th edition. Sentinels are now way more durable. Scout Sentinels are toughness 7 with 7 wounds and a 3+ save, and armored Sentinels are downright chunky at toughness 8 with 7 wounds and a 2+ save. In both cases, it's going to take more than a cursory burst of heavy bolter fire to get rid of these things. In addition, objective secured is out and objective control is in. Each Sentinel has an objective control of 2, meaning a full squadron has an OC of 6, and this is more than a lot of elite infantry units being fielded by other armies. A full squad of Terminators has only got OC 5. In fact, most 5-man squads of elite infantry have only got OC 5. In this case, Sentinels will beat them out on objective control every time. And that's before taking into account orders like Duty and Honor, which can make each Sentinel OC 3. And speaking of orders, Sentinels have much easier access to them now because they have the regiment keyword as well as the squadron. So they can receive orders from both infantry commanders and tank commanders. And considering that a lot of infantry commanders like Platoon Command Squad and the Cadian Command Squad have got Master Voxes, which allow them to orders up to 24 inches away, it really isn't hard to make sure that your Sentinels are stomping around the battlefield well supported by the force multiplier, which is the Guard orders. But it's not just old problems which now have solutions. Sentinels are bringing a number of new tricks to the battlefield as well. First and foremost, they, as I previously mentioned, have the regiment keyword. This makes them a viable target for the reinforcements stratagem. That's right, when you lose your squadron of Sentinels, you can spend 2 CP and a fresh unit goes into reserve. And yes, that does include they get their Hunter Killer missiles back if they've already fired them off. They are treated as a brand new, fresh unit. That means you can bring squadrons of Sentinels back from the dead constantly throughout the game, making them an ever-present threat. Not only does that, again, contribute towards their increased durability, I mean, if they never die, that's pretty bloody durable, and also contributes towards their damage output. Like we said, they get those hunter killers back, and hunter killers are really good now, but also they have a whole bunch of good weapons. And now you don't have to pay for them because all war gear is essentially free or the cost is baked in. You can have endlessly respawning units of sentinels with las cannons or plasma cannons and auto cannons and hunter killers just coming back and hitting the enemy with those big strength, high damage shots. But wait, there's more! Because sentinels are good at shooting, but they're no slouches in combat either. Again, thanks to free war gear, every sentinel can have a sentinel chainsaw, and this has been vastly improved with 10th edition. They now get 3 attacks at strength 6 AP -1. Previously, in old editions, sentinels got 1 attack, and it was at strength rubbish, weapon skill rubbish, AP rubbish. It was just rubbish. It was all terrible. Now they're getting more attacks, and they've got good strength and AP attached to that as well. Sure, they're only hitting at weapon skill 4+, but then this goes back to what we were talking about before with orders. They can receive the fixed bayonets order. I don't know where they put it. Maybe they put spikes on the end of their feet. I don't know. But they can receive the order. So sentinels can actually hit at weapon skill 3+ in combat, and of course ballistic skill 3+ with shooting thanks to take aim. So they are genuinely good at doing damage both in shooting and combat now. And all of this before we take into account the fact that each sentinel comes with its own unique ability. Every unit in the game now has a datasheet ability, and both of the sentinel ones for scout and armored are great. The scout sentinel one is intended as a force multiplier. It's called Daring Recon, and if you get within 18 inches of an enemy unit, then within the shooting phase, you can pick that unit and go, you are the target of my Daring Recon. I'm marking the target, I'm painting the target, and that means that indirect fire does not suffer the -1 to hit, and it also means that your other units in your army get reroll 1s to hit. But that does include the sentinels. So even if you've got no artillery in your army, your scout sentinels can walk around, get within 18 inches of an enemy unit and go, oh, I'll give myself reroll 1s to hit there, thank you very much. And armored sentinels get bonuses to wounding. They're mobile hunter killers. Each time model in this unit makes an attack that targets a monster or vehicle unit, you can reroll the wound roll. Essentially, against big monsters, big vehicles, your armored sentinels get pseudo twin linked. And considering that right now the meta is mechanized and vehicles and monsters, it's all about taking the armor, it's all about taking the big gribblies. Having that twin linked against them is gonna come up in the vast majority of games. So with all of these positives building up, surely full-blown sentinel spam is absolutely viable and totally the way to go for a meta guard army, right? Attention guardsmen, this is an announcement by the Departamento Militarum. Element Games is an official sponsor of the mordianglorytv channel. They offer up to 20% off Warhammer 40k and 10% off Bolt Action and other game systems. Use the link down in the description to save money and support the channel. Anyone not using the link will be referred to the local commissariat. Also, don't forget that if you use referral code TIM3921, then you will receive double store credit, saving even more money on your future purchases. That's all for now. Fallout! Well, not exactly. You could take 18 sentinels, 3 squadrons of 3 armored, 3 squadrons of 3 scout sentinels, and that is one hell of a skew list, and a lot of opponents would struggle to deal with that amount of armor, especially considering a lot of it's going to be coming back with reinforcements. But that is a skew list, and so at its core there will be something out there that can hard counter it. But in my opinion, the main thing that is holding back pure sentinel spam is terrain. There is a lot of terrain on 40k boards these days, especially at the competitive level. This blocks line of sight, and considering sentinels don't have any indirect fire weapons, that is a bit of a problem. It's all well and good having lots of guns, but if you can't see the opponent, those guns don't really mean a huge amount. But more importantly, Sentinels can't breach through walls. They're not infantry. They've got to go around. And so even if you took all of these Sentinels, you would find yourself being forced down narrow movement points. You'd be forced down choke points. And armies that had a lot of infantry would be able to breach through those walls and get around you. You might think that you have created an impenetrable can wall of sense, but actually there's all these gaps where the opponent just goes through the walls, goes through the ruins, and you can't do that. And you are going to struggle to stop them from doing that because, of course, like we said, you haven't got much indirect fire if you go down the full-blown Sentinel spam route. That's going to occupy a lot of your points. Likewise, whilst your Sentinels might be able to move block those armies that don't have a lot of infantry, use a squadron to string out across a narrow choke point, an alleyway, and stop the enemy from coming down, they can do the same to you. And if you're leading squadron Sentinels in this big column march of the Ents style thing, it gets blocked off, then suddenly you're going to find yourself really struggling for maneuverability. So suddenly is Sentinel spam now totally unviable? Has it gone completely the other way? Well, no. I think that Sentinel spam, even taken to its extreme form, can be used, but it's very tournament and terrain dependent. Are you going to an event that maybe takes advantage of player-placed terrain? Are you going to an event that maybe uses slightly less dense terrain? You've got examples such as the Glasshammer Gaming Terrain Pack, which uses a bit more forest and a bit less ruins. That would definitely be a tournament format that you could use Sentinel spam on. There's lots of open places where you wouldn't get movement blocked as much. You could bring your firepower to bear, but also plenty of opportunities for you to get the benefit of cover, making your Sentinels even more durable. Also, even if you are playing on a dense terrain board, I think that big squadrons of Sentinels, they fulfill a very, very important niche, which is they are a alternative infantry blob. They're a pseudo infantry blob. You might be someone who has absolutely zero interest in painting up 80 to 100 guardsmen. That just does not appeal to you. Maybe you're more in it for the tanks. Maybe it's just the fact that you've got a really intricate color scheme and that would be just an absolute slog and a grind. Maybe you just don't like the idea of just throwing waves and waves of men at people. You like to collect a more elite sort of guard army, one that can show the fighting prowess of the guard, not just the meat waves. Well, in those situations, for whatever reason you might not be taking lots and lots of infantry, Sentinels can pretty much do exactly the same thing. They can screen out a large area of the board. They can be used to move block people pretty effectively. They bring a decent amount of firepower, enough to hold their own, but it's not the principal reason you're taking them. And most importantly, they're about the same points. If you take a Death Corps of Krieg blob with a command squad or a marshal leading it, that's 190 points. Well, a unit of 3 armored Sentinels is 180. Both of these units can benefit from reinforcements. Both these units are more durable than your opponent is likely to expect. Even if you take something like Cadians and you add a Cadian command squad, well, that's 185 points. Scout Sentinels are only 180 points. If you're looking at taking a really, really chunky unit, or you need something that's extra durable, well, that 180 points, 190 points that you were spending on that infantry blob, it's only 20 points more to take 3 armored Sentinels. Or if you're taking a Krieg blob and you've gone absolutely ham on it and you've put a Marshal and you've put a Primaris Psyker in there, that's 250 points for one of those blobs. Well, again, it's only 210 for the armored Sentinel one, and you're getting a similar number of wounds but way more toughness and way better saves. So the point is that whether you're going for Scout Sentinels or Armor Sentinels, they can essentially be a viable alternative. They can be a different way for you to get screening into your list, for you to get movement blockers into your list, for you to get speed bumps into your list without having to spend ages and ages painting up these big blocks of infantry. So in summary, Sentinels have never been better. They're an absolutely viable unit that you can include multiples of in your list and get some serious benefits out of them. But full-blown Sentinel spam is not an automatic way to play guard. It is terrain dependent and tournament dependent, and it does have some pretty crippling flaws. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Have you tried full-on Sentinel spam with 18 or 15 Sentinels? Or have you just been having success with a squadron or two of them? Whatever you've tried, do you prefer the Scout Sentinels or the Armored Sentinels? And what are your favourite weapons for them as well? If you've enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button. It really does help with the all-knowing and yet mysterious YouTube algorithm. And subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, and they have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a big shout out to Bon Bon Vert, Mad Larkin, Marcus Roberts, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Varney. Thank you guys so much. Your incredible generosity is a massive part of how I'm able to do Mordian Glory full time, and it is a big driving force behind the channel. But I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.